Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You can stand me up.
Welcome back to the second hour of Union Members Radio. This is Kim, and I'm here with my co-host, James Dennis.
Hey.
Dr. Merrick Masters couldn't be with us tonight. Listen, we're going to talk a lot more about this. We have Phil Cohen on the line with us, and we will get to him right now. Sorry about that. My thing is flashing like crazy. Hey, Phil Cohen is SEIU organizer and author. He fights union busters and wins. Welcome back to the program, Phil.
Hey, Phil, what's happening?
Hey, what's going on? Good to be here again.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
So, I know that you are very active, and, by the way, jump in anytime, too.
Oh, absolutely.
So I know you're very active, and what's going on? You're out there fighting the good fight. Tell us, I know you have some news for us. So, Phil, I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, we've got some really big news. And actually, I'm with Workers United, which is an affiliate of SEIU.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Thank you for the correction.
No problem. Look, following an intensive 6-month investigation, the National Labor Relations Board has issued a massive complaint against Mohawk Industries for illegal union busting at its Eden facility. The complaint cites Mohawk for dozens of violations, including direct management solicitation of employees on the petition, bullying employees who refuse to sign, threats and interrogation of employees who refuse to sign, making illegal promises to employees to induce signing, allowing free reign of the plant for a month to the anti-union employees circulating the petition. 3 individual members of management, between them, were cited for 45 illegal acts. That's in addition to the numerous violations committed by the company as a whole. And, of course, the National Labor Relations Board, based on this sweeping taint of the petition, dismissed the petition as having been illegally obtained.
Wow.
I cannot believe that.
So,
wow.
Walk us through what happened. I mean, bring us through the process, Phil.
Okay, well, look, back in the late summer, early fall of 2017, 2 human resource executives took up full-time residence at the plant. Clearly, their role was to orchestrate, supervise the petition from the ground up. On September 26th, they took 7 hand-picked, low-seniority employees to a tour of one of their non-union plants in North Carolina. And within several days, those employees were essentially getting paid not to run their jobs, but to run around the plant soliciting signatures on the petition. So anybody who would think that's a coincidence is certainly an idiot. But anyway, it's the job of someone like myself to connect the dots.
Right.
Because obviously it's illegal for management to be engaged in the business of union busting. Management is theoretically supposed to be neutral regarding matters of representation.
Ooh, what a great point. So sorry to interrupt you, but that is very important.
Yeah, and so what they do when the company wants to bust a union, they need to put together a small group of employees whom they can work through. And so ostensibly pretend it is the employees who are dissatisfied with the union and trying to decertify it, not management trying to do so for their own reasons. And, there was actually a guy, and he went around glad-handing employees for several months, essentially profiling them. And they narrowed it down to a small group of folks who they thought, one, based on their low seniority and the promise of, well, seniority won't matter if there isn't a union, and, people who were essentially insecure, people who could be manipulated, people who could be induced with bribes of promotion. They put together a small group of people to do their dirty work. And it becomes the job of someone like myself to prove that.
Right.
Because the National Labor Relations Board holds unions to a very high burden of proof. As the accused, the company is naturally innocent until proven guilty in our society. And proving management involvement in the petition is sometimes easier said than done, especially when you have a conservative Republican administration, whom all the agents and attorneys of the board work for. And, I've been in the game of fighting union busters for 30 years. And the administration in Washington makes a really big difference, what kind of hoops of fire we have to jump through to get a complaint. And certainly under Trump, we had to jump through hoops of fire 3 times over. But nonetheless, we made our case. And in fact, the witnesses we brought forward were so compelling, and the company witnesses were just had such a lack of credibility that the board agents went out on their own and actually uncovered numerous witnesses beyond what we presented. And actually, the first time in my career, we actually got back a complaint that was more substantive than the allegations we presented, meaning the board on its own found additional witnesses and additional evidence to corroborate what the union's witnesses presented.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yes, it was. It's very exciting. It's a victory that took a long time to unfold because the board really did its due diligence. They turned over like every stone, every pebble. And the big mistake that the company made here is that they targeted employees for their most egregious acts of, direct solicitation, the threats, the coercion. They targeted employees that they profiled as weak links, who at the very worst, even if they didn't sign the petition, wouldn't come forward and be whistleblowers. And witness after witness whom the company underestimated, in fact, did come forward and made up the heart of our case. And, for some of them, it was really a process. We really had to walk people through what you might call a crisis of conscience, where within themselves they had to first win a battle of fear versus the desire to come forward and do the right thing. But person after person won that battle within themselves, gave statements to the National Labor Relations Board, and helped the union local as a whole win a major battle against the union-busting company.
That's definitely just beyond probably your wildest imagination how it would end up. And I'm really glad that it did end up, in the favor for justice. So what are some of the consequences now as a result of winning?
Well, here's the really interesting thing, that if I could convey one thing to the listener not familiar with this process, I would hope it would be this. Mohawk Industries and its management engaged in a fraudulent conspiracy to deprive workers of their rights and to bust the union local. Mm-hmm. In any other area of law, when people engage in a fraudulent conspiracy and they get busted, they go to jail.
Right.
And the lawyers that underwrite the conspiracy, at the very least, get disbarred.
Right.
The thing about labor law in this country is there really isn't any penalty other than you don't get to bust the union, you still have to live with the union.
Right.
It's equivalent to if the penalty for robbing a bank and getting caught was you had to give the money back and put a sign on your front door for 60 days saying, I won't rob any more banks.
Right. Oh, my goodness.
Yes,
it's like the Wild West.
He's right.
Yeah,
Phil is right.
What's the incentive not to rob a bank?
Right.
If there's no penalty except you have to give the money back, but maybe the next time you rob a bank, you'll get away with it.
And you got to put a posting up saying you won't do it again.
Yeah, absolutely right.
That burns me up more so than anything. You just have to put a posting up. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I won't do it again. My bad.
Right. But I'll tell you, the game isn't over, okay? Mohawk is a Fortune 500 company. They got money to burn. And the National Right to Work Committee has entered the fight on behalf of the person, ostensibly on behalf of the person who signed the petition. So this is actually getting appealed. I'd say maybe 5 or 10% of the time when you get a complaint with this much substance, this much depth, does the company not decide to essentially make peace and go on and try to build a new relationship with the union. But in this case, they're appealing it. The trial date is set for September 10th. It'll probably go on for a couple of weeks. They're gambling on, by the time this gets to the Trump board up in Washington, maybe a year and a half from now, 4 to 5 people are going to be Trump appointees. But what I'd say, in response to that, is regardless of, political bias of whoever's on the board, the law is still the law. And we've got the company coming and going so many different ways. I mean, if 10% of this case held up, and a hell of a lot more of it than that is going to, but if 10% of this case held up under current law, it will be enough to taint the petition.
Wow.
Cool.
So you've had a lot of experience working with the NLRB, and
Yeah.
I'm curious, since, we do have a new administration, you anticipated something different than the result, which, I'm glad, that the end result, is fair and beyond fair. Well, not beyond fair, but it is as good as it could get, right? So do you think that it's going to stay that way, or do you think that we are headed for, I don't know, something different?
Well, I'll tell you first, I was confident from day one we were going to get a complaint and get the petition dismissed. What surprised me was, most of the time, you file charges, if you get 70 to 80% of, the good stuff within the charges, you've done really, really well. This is the first time in my life I got back 120%. So the extent and just how deep the charges went, how, the allegations surpassed my own in the final analysis, that was kind of a very pleasant surprise. But I was certain from the beginning, given just the evidence that we had in front of us and the people I was working with, that we were going to win this case. In terms of what happens next, I'm really confident about the outcome of the trial. I mean, the one thing I've seen that the company's not going to see until we get close to the trial date is I've read all the affidavits. Mm-hmm. I know what the union witnesses have to say and how deep their testimony goes. I know why the NLRB made the decision it did. So I'm very confident of the outcome of the trial. And I'm also, push come to shove, I'm confident that when the court transcript ends up before the board in Washington, the law is the law. In this country, you can spin the law to the left, you can spin the law to the right, but you can't be a regulatory agency and simply rewrite the law and make a decision that does not take the law into account.
Phil Cohen, you know what? It's always such a pleasure and honor to have you on with us.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for calling in, keeping us posted. Thanks for being on the right side of all of this. Phil Cohen, Workers United organizer and author, thanks for being with us. We can't wait to talk to you again. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Radio. We'll be right back.
Gonna stand my ground, won't be turned around, and I'll keep this world from dragging me